question is, how do you explain the concept of chatzos in simple terms?
Okay, so chatzos is something that we're all probably familiar with. Chatzos means mid. So chatzos halayla, midnight, we all know that in relation to the Pesach Seder, you're supposed to eat afikomen by chatzos. People think of it as 12, it's not 12, it's the middle. So there's all these halacha calculations. So chatzos Shabbos refers to chatzos on Friday, which is the midday. Right now around summertime, it's like 1 something. So chatzos Shabbos, just in a nutshell, is the concept of aiming, not perfection, but aiming to be mostly ready for Shabbos by midday on Friday. There's no halachic status at midday. It's like spiritually a time when the Kedusha of Shabbos begins to enter the home. So things should be winding down. Like you're not taking out big appliances and starting new things. Once you get on this journey, you kind of pull back on starting new projects after Chatzos. So that's generally the concept. Those who can control their work hours, like if you have a job outside of the home, so limiting how much work you do that's not related to Shabbos on Friday, that's also part of Chatzos. And there's a very strong emphasis on, it sounds simple, but it's extremely impactful, setting the table Thursday night. So this Indian of Chatzos Shabbos is kind of winding down after midday, being mostly ready by Chatzos, and having that Shabbos table set Thursday night. Hi, come on in, welcome. Perfect.
Okay, number 2. What are the biggest misconceptions that people have about chatzos?
Okay, so I touched on it already, but before I answer, let me throw it out. Have any of you heard of this concept before? Chatzos Shabbos, just raise of hands. Okay, so what are your, I'm not gonna say misconceptions, but what are your thoughts or beliefs about chatzos? Do you have any? I feel like Hop has something brewing there.
I know how to apply me. I know how to apply it to other things.
Okay.
You know, for Yontif or a fast day or those kind of things.
Okay.
But I never thought in terms of Erev Shabbos.
Right. And it was a completely new concept to me 5 years ago. But one of the biggest misconceptions is that whatever time Chatzos is on Friday, that's it. Like the lights go out then, you sit down in your special holy tichel and you say tehillim the rest of the day, like you can't do anything else. No, that's not true. What you do after Chatzos, when you get to this point, if you get to this point, it's a whole journey, it's totally up to you. You could be cutting up salads in the kitchen, you could be bathing a kid, you could be bathing yourself, you could be taking a walk in the park. There's no rules and regulations, it's just your focus is on, we're getting ready to greet this VIP, we're getting ready to greet this Shabbos queen. Like, this is not something that we're dashing into. This is something that we're doing with intention. So misconception is that everything stops at Chatzos. It's not, it's just like a little mile marker. Like, this is kind of our goal. So whether you're working from home or whether you're out of the home, you know that by midday Friday, things are going to start going in a little bit of a different direction. They're winding down.
Number 3, why are so many people struggling with Friday stress today?
Is anybody here struggling with Friday stress?
In the fall and winter, maybe.
Okay, true confessions. I'm a decently organized person, and until I discovered this concept, I was pretty stressed out almost every Friday. Why? I was blessed with a moderate-sized household. I'll just put it that way. We have 3 children. I did not work out of the house most Fridays, and I still found that things were chaotic on Friday afternoon. And talking to other people and being in other homes, it's pretty much the norm. Would you agree? Like, it's kind of like, we just expect it. Friday afternoons are chaotic, and you go into candlelighting like just barely making it, right? I mean, there are Tzidkanios, there are Rebbitzins that are like all calm and they're ready, but like regular people, no, not so much. You know, so that's the norm. And then once you discover this concept and you start working on it, you realize there's like a whole new way to approach this time, and it's game changing. I don't even remember what the question was. Did I answer the question?
Yeah. Why are so many people struggling with Friday stress today?
So I did not answer the
Getting
question.
there.
I said this is the norm, but not why. So the Yetzer Hara goes on vacation on Shabbos. This is what I've heard. Confirmation, anybody? I have heard the Yetzer Hara is like basically that's his day off on Shabbos, right? So he's in overtime and an overdrive before Shabbos to try to make anything that's going to go wrong will go wrong, on Erev Shabbos. It's like Murphy's Law, but just make Murphy like Yerachmiel's Law or whatever, like some Jewish version. The fridge is gonna conk out Erev Shabbos. The emergencies are gonna happen Erev Shabbos. That's Murphy's Law. In addition to the Yetzer Hara working so hard because it's going on vacation, you have a lot of Kedusha. Shabbos is like an extremely holy time. We're very close to God. The curtain is lifted. We have full exposure, everything like that. So as strong as a force of Kedusha is, you have an equal counter force that tries to just get in the way and not let that Kedusha happen. So those are two reasons why the chaos is such a normal way of life, like even in the homes of people who are organized.
Okay, next question. What does a calmer, more joyful Friday actually look like?
Right. Okay, so Javi Greenman, who was going to be here tonight, has actually been on our chat for, I think, for a few months now. So she could have shared some of the things that people share in the chat. We have a WhatsApp chat with now about 350 women, and they are literally from around the world. So we have people from Toronto and America. We have people from Israel and South Africa, Switzerland, Zurich. We have a woman in Subotica, Serbia. I thought she was a spammer at first. That's a whole other story. Because no, that's not a thing. And so this WhatsApp chat is for people who are new to the concept and they're like, what is this about? So get on the chat, and the idea is to support each other, to encourage each other, and to give each other advice on how to get further in this journey of Chatzos, right? So this question of what it looks like, kind of like what I started describing on Friday afternoon, it's going to look very different in everyone's home. But I'll tell you what's not going to be there. What's not going to be there is chaos. Because you have planned already from the beginning of the week, and we'll get into practically how you make this happen, but you did not save things for the very last minute, so that even when there are curveballs, because I promise you there will be curveballs, you're going to be much better equipped to handle them. So Friday afternoon could look, again, we talked about this in the first question, it could look like, if you have children in the home, it could look like you sitting with them and actually reviewing their pressure sheets, or grandchildren. You have your children, your grandchildren visiting, you actually can sit outside with them and have a cup of iced coffee or something and watch them play in the backyard. You're not like racing against the clock in the kitchen trying to get all the food ready for all the people and the beds made, because again, you've planned in advance, you've modified things to a doable list, and you're ready.
Who can benefit from the gift of Chatzos?
Right, so a lot of people assume that this is just a system for women. But the truth is, it's for women, it's for men, and most of all, it impacts children, and it impacts the people around you. The original Chatzos lady is someone named Azriela Jaffe. Has anyone heard that name? Azriela Jaffe is a professor of public speaking at Rutgers. What's Shaykh's? So she's a Balas Tshuva. She talks about this very publicly and very openly. And she is incredibly organized, incredibly on time. Things are very mesudar in her home. And Fridays were crazy. And one morning she woke up her daughter, and her daughter said, she said, come on, it's Friday, Shabbos is coming, we gotta get going, let's go. She said, I hate Shabbos. And Azriela was like, what do you mean you hate Shabbos? What's to hate about Shabbos? Like delicious food and fancy clothing, and we spend more time together? I hate Shabbos. Azriela realized her daughter hated Fridays. She hated the chaos that ensued before Shabbos. I'm getting lost on what the question was, but
we'll get there. You can finish your story.
Right.
It was who is it benefit?
Right. So what happened is that what happened and what happens in homes is that kids actually start to resent Shabbos because of what Friday looks like. Shabbos is glorious, right? There's nothing not to love about Shabbos. So who is impacted by it is men, women, and children, all ages, all stages, actually all walks of life, all levels of religious observance. I've spoken to people who are not yet Shomer Shabbos, and this speaks to them. The idea of preparing for Shabbos throughout the week, the idea of making challah earlier in the week, the idea of having it on your mind, whatever Shabbat looks like. So all ages, all stages of life, empty nesters, someone who's an individual in a home, it's mamash something that speaks to every demographic.
What's
I had a lady who lives with a cat, and her cat always wants her attention a half an hour before candlelighting. She said it's like weird. Her cat will start meowing. So that like, it affects the pets in the house too. It's kind of crazy, but there you go.
What's the smallest first step someone can take this week?
Okay, so I'm gonna go to setting the table on Thursday night. Some people, without even knowing it, have this practice, but the visual for the family and for everyone who's in the house of the table set for Shabbos Thursday night, and it might be late Thursday night, but they wake up Friday morning and they see that table set. The food might not be cooked, the rest of the house is probably flying, but that is such a calming visual, and it makes a really strong statement. We are ready. We are ready, okay? So on this WhatsApp chat that we have, Thursday evening, it's so beautiful. People start posting pictures of their Shabbos table. And I try very much to control and not make it like a Martha Stewart contest. No commenting on someone's china or their fancy napkins. I love when people use Dixie plates, because whatever, that's not what it's about. It's about my Shabbos table is set. We have people who live in very tiny apartments and homes, and their one table is all they've got, right? That's where people are eating lunch on Friday. That's where people are learning Torah. That's where people are doing what they need to do. So they'll put a little stack of plates. They'll put all the things that they need for Shabbos in one corner. So people find ways to make it work. But as a very first step, I would say setting the Shabbos table Thursday night is a great start.
What tools or habits help people make lasting changes?
Great question, and I think probably some of you can answer that. This is time management, habits, any ideas? How do you make a new habit stick? You want to throw something out? Getting tired of my own voice? Yes? No?
Just take on a little bit at a time.
Right. On one page on my website, it's how do I start? giftofchutzos.org, how do I start? So I say small steps, people, small steps, yes. If you take on more than you can chew, it's gonna fizzle out and you're gonna be done in like 2 weeks, yeah. So small steps. Another idea is habit stacking. So something that you do already, right? Like you brush your teeth every night. So if there's an exercise that you wanna do, like it sounds funny, but I like kick my legs up when I'm brushing my teeth. Or when I'm blow drying my hair, I step side to side to get in more steps. That's called habit stacking. So Motzei Shabbos, you're always gonna say Havdalah. True? False? Right? That's a habit. You're never gonna not say, I mean, who knows what kind of scenario comes up, but you're pretty much guaranteed to always recite Havdalah on Motzei Shabbos. So what if you connect something that prepares for Shabbos to Havdalah? The minute Havdalah is over, you set up your candles for the next Shabbos. And what that does is it creates this beautiful continuum of Shabbos ended, and you are immediately doing something. You're bringing in this Kedusha for next Shabbos. Okay, it takes a minute. So habit stacking is a great idea. Creating some boundaries, like some commitments. One of the first things I did, and this was so hard for me, is I said I'm not adding anything on Friday afternoon. I love baking. Anyone know that about me? You see that on the chat already. I love baking, I love cooking, I love being in the kitchen. It's like my happy place. I said to myself, Friday afternoon, even if everything's done and everything's calm, I'm not adding another thing. And it was hard, so making some like hard and fast rules that work for you. Another thing that helps is peer encouragement and support. So if you don't already have like an overload of WhatsApp chats, join the Gift of Chatzos Women's WhatsApp chat. You could join it for a few weeks, take what you want from it, and get out of there. Just the peer support, people say, is absolutely incredible. And there are people that have been on there for a couple of years. I remind people gently to exit stage left when they've gotten what they can get. They're like, no, we really need this. Please don't kick us off. Another thing that people find helpful is lists. Everyone has different ways of creating Shabbos. Some people create it in their head, and that's fine, it works for them. But if you have something that's written down, not only is it good for you to look back at when your mind goes blank, whether it's a menu or a to-do list, the people in your house look at that list, and they might say, oh, that's something that I could do. Is that like a dream come true? Like, sure? I don't think so.
Never happened.
Right. So I was a little skeptical about it, but one of our chatzosers, okay, and sorry if this is even more triggering, but the husband went out and bought chalkboard paper. A husband that goes to Michael's, what? So she puts up like a really colorful list every week of tasks for Shabbos. And there's colorful chalk markers next to it. So that's kind of fun for the kids, you know. And they see something they could do, and when they do a task, they put their initials next to it, like, oh, this is mine, you know, bake fudge brownies or whatever, set the table, cut toilet paper. So there's ways to make it fun, but lists are very helpful. And then kind of similar to the boundaries and the time commitments, but time and task boundaries, like limit the amount of food that you're making. Like, you don't need 7 dips, you don't need 3 entrees. That's not, just gonna say it, it's not normal. It has kind of become the normal. It's not normal, and it's hurting people. We don't need it gastronomically, we don't need it financially. We just, it's things have gone through the roof. The standards are out of control. Let's move on, please. I can talk about that all night.
The last question is, what are some of the most meaningful stories you've heard from Chatzosers around the world?
Okay, so before I answer that question, and I'm gonna remind myself of the question so I don't get off track too much, but the most meaningful stories, I don't love talking about the bracha that comes from this, because I'm not a great rabbi who's, you know, you coming to me with a problem and I'm saying, do this, and then everything will be solved. But when you work on Chatzos Shabbos, you're gonna see more bracha in your life. That's just what everyone experiences. So there's 2 sides. You're gonna probably see practical shifts in your life and in your home, that those in themselves are a gift. That extra calm and that peace that intrinsically comes into your home. On the more spiritual side, even though that sounds a little fluffy and spiritual, but it's very practical and physical. On the spiritual side is that Shabbos is the Makor HaBracha. So many sources for that. I mean, you can go back to Bereshis, you know, Chadodi, we sing about it, but Shabbos is the source of all blessing. So when you put more efforts into Shabbos, into honoring Shabbos, you're going to see more bracha. And if you don't believe me, on the website, giftofchatzos.org, under what is Chatzos, look at rabbinic endorsements. There's probably 3 dozen rabbis, Ashkenazi, Sfarad, Hasidish, Litvish, from 10 years ago, from 100 years ago, who told people in all situations, work on Shabbos, and not just work on Shabbos, but work specifically on Chatzos Shabbos. It's not a halacha, it's a minhag that could bring tremendous yeshuos, tremendous brachos. Do I have to share stories? So I also get very emotional. So personally, again, I'm not gonna get into specifics, but I discovered this concept about 5 years ago, and things were definitely hard, like everyone. Our family had all different kinds of challenges. Each individual had their own challenges that they were going through. We took this on in our home. It was mostly me, you know, the kids were growing up already. And then a year ago, someone asked me this question in one of the first Fireside chats, and I looked back and I was like, wow. Each member of our family and the family as a whole had so much that I could look back and you don't need to be specific because it doesn't matter. But we saw tremendous bracha, Baruch Hashem. Other people have said the same thing. We had someone post maybe about 6 months ago, Mazel Tov, I just had a baby. This is on the Chatzoser chat. And I'm calling him my Chatzos baby because 9 months ago, I took on to work on this initiative in the schus of a relative who was waiting to have a baby. The relative did not have a baby yet, she said, but she got pregnant and just delivered a healthy baby. And I think it had been a while since she herself had had children, even though she had other ones, but that was just extremely beautiful. A related story is part of the Gift of Chatzos is an initiative that we have going in Atlanta, which, you know, I could see other cities really enjoying this as well, but it's called the Shabbos Meal Shadchan. The Shabbos Meal Shadchan is exactly what it sounds like. We fix people up for Shabbos meals. It could be an individual, it could be a couple, it could be a family, it could be a local person, someone visiting. So there was a couple from Israel. He's a robotics professor at Bar Ilan. They came to Atlanta for some kind of conference for a week, and I helped set them up for meals, and my husband and I actually hosted them ourselves. So at the Shabbos table, what came up? This initiative that I run, the Gift of Chatzos. So we were talking about it. They had never heard of the concept. Great, beautiful. We had a lovely meal. They're walking out the door, and you know those conversations that just go on and on when you're like half out the door? Should we sit down again? So the husband and wife were like mock arguing, and this was the situation. It was right before the 3-day Shavuos. Do you remember that last year? It was like Shabbos and Shavuos, 3 days in a row. They had a flight back to Eretz Yisrael that was gonna land Erev, Shabbos and Shavuos, like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So he was saying that let's stay over in London for that Shabbos and Shavuos. They had 6 kids back at home, by the way, which maybe was part of his decision. The parents were watching the kids. He said, let's have a little like late honeymoon and stay in England where their stopover was. And she said, let's get home to the kids. So that was a discussion they had had the whole time. But now that they heard about this concept of Chatzos Shabbos, they asked me, the big Rav on the Chatzos Shabbos, what should we do? We're going to be arriving after Chatzos, you know. So I said, I'm not paskening, but I asked the same Shaila, and the Rav said, if you can avoid having a flight that arrives after Chatzos, you don't do it. So that was it. They didn't say what they were going to do. They left. 2 days later, the woman's name is Doraya. She's a wonderful Israeli woman. Barely speaks English, by the way. So England is whatever, whole nother conversation. So she texts me and she says, Sarfegi, we're staying in England. Can you set us up for meals through your Shabbos Meal Shotgun program in Golders Green? Do I know anyone in Golders Green? I do not. So that started a 48-hour period of me reaching out to absolutely everybody I know in the world to see if there's any connection to Golders Green. And it was completely quiet. It was just so weird. Like, where is the Jewish network? And at one point I said, I made all the hishtadlus, I made all the effort I can, you know. Things started trickling in and I would send them Doraya's number so they could be in touch with her directly. And I didn't really know what ended up happening. So Doraya's on our chat and she posted after Shabbos, like 2 days after Shabbos, this is my Chatzos miracle. And she told the story of what she and her husband decided to do, to stay in England overnight. And she said by Erev Shabbos, they had 12 invites for 6 meals. And she looked at it as double man on Erev Shabbos. That was like her Shabbos man. So it was like, just really exactly 12 invitations for 6 meals. So that was really beautiful. There are other stories. Some of them are shareable, some of them are not shareable. And Mirza Shem will put out a book one day.
Okay.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah. Okay, so I also promised, how are we doing on time? Pretty good. I also promised some practical resources. The first one that I want to mention is, okay, so the Fireside chat is introduce the concept, answer questions, and I'll open the floor for questions in a few minutes. But later in the summer, during the 3 weeks, we're going to roll out a program called CCI. We just did a pilot of this program in Atlanta. It's the Chatzos Community Initiative. And this is something that loops in the men and the children and makes it like a family affair, but also a community affair. Like our community is working on this together. And it's a beautiful thing to do as a schos for someone in the community that needs a refuah shlema. Everyone can have their own yeshuos and things that they want in mind, but it's absolutely beautiful. So what we do is we set up a table in a shul or some pickup spot. People register and then they pick up different resources. It goes for about 3 weeks. Every week there's a raffle for the households that participate. And again, it's great for any age. So some of the little things that we give out, a little notebook that says L'Kavod Shabbos, things to do, you could write your menu, basically like a bumper sticker on your fridge to advertise my organization, thank you, right? Okay, so a little welcome letter, there's an Erev Shabbos checklist, there's weekly suggestions of what to do every day of the week so that you're kind of like organized for Friday, little discussion questions for Shabbos if you want to use them. So people go in and they take a folder, they take whatever resources speak to them or are appropriate for their household. That's the main adult resources. Then for kids, we have, for elementary school, there's like a list of tasks that elementary school age kids can do. And they sign up to do a couple. There's a teen commitment form. And then my very favorite is there's some coloring sheets for the preschoolers, but then the lanyard necklaces. So they color this, I'm helping for Shabbos, cut it out and stick it in here. And this goes on the coat rack. And when it's time to get ready for Shabbos, like to cut toilet paper or whatever your little 3-year-old does, they put this necklace on. And kids have been running around Atlanta wearing the necklaces. I'm talking about 9 and 10-year-olds. It's not like, guys, that's for preschool, but okay. So this is very cute. And in Mirza Shem, during the 3 weeks, it'll be running in several cities across the US. Hopefully B'nai Torah as well. And of course, I want to thank B'nai Torah for co-sponsoring this event and, kind of allowing me to discuss with all of you, hopefully allowing you to make some changes in your own homes. Oh yes, last resources, but this is menu suggestions and recipes, and this would be in PDF form. So people don't really want paper anymore, but that's really great. Okay, so any questions about anything that I've said about the concept in general? let me stop talking, please. Yes, and please have something to eat from this beautiful spread. Let me start with the question. Why did you come tonight? Did you come tonight because it's nice to be social? You have something going on with your Shabbos? Like, let's get real. You know?
Whoopsie.
Let's get real and get wet. What's intriguing, thank you. When you saw that flyer, right? Did that speak to you? How those frantic Fridays working out for you? Is there anything about the way your household comes into Shabbos that's not working? Go for it.
No, because for me, the change was because I moved from Barcelona in Spain 1 year and 8 months ago
Okay.
to the United States.
Okay.
So
Big
I was,
change.
yeah, I was living in apartment.
Okay.
So for me, this was a big change to come a nice home. It's very nice.
Right.
We really like it.
A lot
But for
to
me, it was
clean.
like I have more to do.
Yes.
Also there, I have someone that was, I don't know, the maid that come every week. So only Friday, 5 hours.
Oh wow. That's
So for me,
great.
it was amazing because it's only for Shabbat. And here, it's so different. So
Much harder to find that kind of help.
and yeah, so I feel when I move to here, I have more work to do for Shabbat for sure. Like a big change. Or like more stresses. That's where I improve my English.
Stresses. or
More
stressors,
stress
yeah.
because the home is too big that I was used that everything was 100% ready in the apartment in Spain, and here it's made me
Right.
crazy that only part of the home is ready for Shabbat and other part that I understand that is not essential. I understand that, but
Right.
part of me is like no, I want
You want everything to be just
upstairs and
so-
downstairs. I want it, so it's very hard.
Right.
But I try to be so when I understand the concept.
Right.
Sometimes I want to connect with my reality that start this before Friday. You know,
Right.
you be a little bit more so to be less stressed.
Right.
Before
It's
Shabbat.
kind of spreading things out. There's a few components to it. Most of the women who I work with, and there's a few men as well, but just speaking to women right now, there's so much to do even during the week that the idea of adding more in during the week just seems like it's no, please, between making dinner and homework or whatever, like it's enough, right? But the truth is you're going to do these things anyway. So you're either going to do them in a state of rush and stress on Friday, or you do them earlier, and again, you're showing more kavod to Shabbos, and you're doing it in a more peaceful frame of mind where your brain can think and you have more oxygen, right? That's one of the components. Another thing that people talk about in the chat is letting go of certain things. So you try to make a system where you address things. Like it bothers you that not everything is set for Shabbos because it's much harder with a bigger home. Chazal say marba nechasim, marba daiga. The more possessions we have, the more worried. What? But being rich and living in a big home is whatever. It's supposed to be great. That's not. But yeah, so really lowering the bar is very hard for a lot of us, but that's a necessary part of it. Lowering the bar again on the Shabbos standards, like how much we're doing for Shabbos, lowering the bar during the week, and then when you get to the end of the week, when you get to that crunch time, looking at what you have to do, and then maybe using, I don't know if you've heard of this concept of the 4 Ds, but like when you're overwhelmed with how much there is to do, you look at that list and you use do, delegate, defer, and delete. So do has to be done. There's no negotiations. Delegate, someone else can do it. And it could be, you could find a little bit of cleaning help, in your situation for someone else. Delegate might be buying challahs or picking them up from Monica like I did. Those were heavenly, probably the best challah rolls
You're kidding.
I've ever had in my life.
It's so funny.
With all the disclaimers about how long they've been in the freezer. So delegate can look like buying some of your Shabbos food or getting a little bit more cleaning help or having someone else in the household do something. Defer is obvious, you're just pushing it off until after Shabbos. It absolutely does not have to happen now, out of here, right? And delete is just crossing it off completely. So that's a really great time management tool. You know, and sometimes a situation doesn't really have answers, but I think it's really beautiful when people post it on the chat, and other people who might have been in a similar situation will give them solutions. Or like we just had on Friday, this woman her house has been under construction because of a fire, not like we're adding on, yay, not like bad construction for like 6 months, and she has a Betty Crocker on top of some boxes and barely a fridge, and it's just been like pure chaos for so long. And she vented on the chat, and she got a lot of love and support. No solutions. You know, none of us are in the part of Arizona where she is, and we can't send a kugel or anything, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just that moral support, but that can really do a lot for lifting someone. So, yeah.
I wanted to share you, I'm gonna answer your first question
Yeah.
of why we came here tonight.
Yes.
So many of you know, I'm very last minute. And on top of that, I work on Fridays and I come home between 1:30 and 2 o'clock. So this idea that you had mentioned last year, you were posting about it as well, of chatzos, kind of I just like, okay, not for me. I work.
Right.
And then when we had a conversation and I learned a little bit more about it, I found out that it wasn't about doing everything before chatzos, it was just having a mindset. And I appreciated that very much, because even though I start cooking for Shabbos sometimes 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just the idea that, certain things are done earlier, but not because I'm organized, but because, I shouldn't say not because I started earlier in the week, but because I'm into hacks. And I put a lot of things in the freezer, so I'm like, oh, okay, so this does apply to me.
Yes. So there's 2 reasons to take this on. One, again, the physical side, that it'll bring more peace and less chaos into the home. The other side is the bracha. So, Friedel, you have a system that works for you. Every Shabbos you're done, and your family and the guests have plenty of delicious food. So, like, why change it, right? But there's tremendous bracha that comes from thinking about Shabbos every day of the week. And that's what all these Rabbanim say. So that's I'm gonna be a used car salesman here, because this is a used concept. It's something that our grandparents and our great-grandparents did, and for some reason it just slipped away. But like in the villages and the shtetls of old, they shut things down at chatzos. You couldn't go to the cobbler and pick up your boots after chatzos. And you know, they might not have had fridges and freezers, so they weren't like baking on Sunday and freezing. They couldn't use those kind of hacks, but we do. So we can use all of our modern appliances and technology and how things are today to spread Shabbos through the week. Again, if not for the physical and the time management, even just for the bracha. Yeah. And Esther, I wanted to mention something that you reminded me of, talking about was it your mother who passed away young and didn't get to meet? Yeah.
Before she saw my children.
Before your children were raised, right? So when I discovered this concept, I was so excited about it. It was like somewhere around 2020, 2021. And I took it on and I called my mother, who has always worked for computer companies, 9 to 5, secular companies. She is not home until, we didn't have Chatzos Shabbos in our house. So I called her and told her how excited I was to discover this new concept. And she very calmly said, my mother was always ready by Chatzos. This is a Bubby I never met because she died at 40. She didn't meet any of her grandchildren. She didn't even meet any of her sons-in-laws or daughters-in-law. But she was always ready by Chatzos. And even though I never met her, I learned about this concept just somehow, some hashgacha pratis, and not only did I learn about it and take it on, but I felt like it's my life's calling that I need to teach every single person I meet about it. I was in an Apple store getting my MacBook repaired, and these 2 non-Jewish guys were helping me, and they said, so you have a nonprofit? Because they saw it at a .org website. So what do you do? What am I supposed to tell them, right? 2 young non-Jewish guys. And Hashem put some words into my mind. I told them some line about preparation and a holy weekend and something about Thanksgiving, and I don't even know what it was. And they were like, wow, that's so beautiful. I was like, what just happened? Where am I, kind of a moment. But yeah, so there's something that comes down through the generations apparently, and it's beautiful. Even if you don't know what you're tapping into, you might be tapping into something that's generations old within your family. And again, God willing, it should bring you tremendous bracha in ways that you wouldn't even have thought of. Yeah. Any other questions?
So what does your week practically look like?
Mm.
You're
What?
a big
Oh,
baker. You wanna know from
Yes.
Ellen?
So God has such a sense of humor because.
No, like I'm saying practically for somebody, like what is, like
Right,
what do you
right,
do or
right,
what
right.
is?
I can't use myself for an example
Well,
because,
it could
you know,
be.
we eat a little differently, but, okay, so what does a week look like? So I mentioned Matzah Shabbos, preparing the candles, that's a beautiful thing to do, is sit down and enjoy Malav Malka. That's, you know, nourish your lozbon. Sunday, a lot of people bake and freeze, and if you're baking challah, you have to ask your Rav about this, because there's different halachos about different kinds of pas, but if you're baking challah, you can take aside a piece of dough and use it to make pizza for dinner. You know, people don't want to see leftovers maybe until Monday. So like multitasking and like doubling up on what you're doing. That's a good thing for Sunday. If you don't want to bake, making a menu, reaching out to invite guests. The Shabbos meal shopping is connected to the gift of Chatzos because what we're telling people is, don't wait until Thursday night to invite guests. There are people who want an invite who are getting a little stressed out and they don't really want to ask you again. So think about it earlier in the week. And we encourage people to do that. So Sunday could be baking, making a menu, inviting guests. Monday is a day when people are going back to work or they're sending kids off to school. It's not really a time to add a lot. So I say maybe order something. Order something special on Amazon. I don't know, some kind of fun kind of tahina or some kind of treat for Shabbos, or place an order for flowers, something that's like very easy. That's what works for me. That Monday is a simple task. Tuesday, we suggest people double up because in Bereshis Brias Olam, Hashem said Kitov twice on Tuesday. So you can make a long-lasting dip, a sauce, a marinade, and double or triple up for another week. A lot of dips freeze. Tahina, hummus, pesto. What else freezes?
The base of my
Mapufa.
mushroom dip.
The base of Fredo's mushroom dip freezes great. Sauteed
The
onions.
base of jalapeno dip without
Yes.
the mayonnaise.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
anything without mayonnaise.
Right, and I don't know why we don't always double up, but that is a gift of Chatzos technique for sure.
See,
So
so when
that's
I
Tuesday.
think about all this, I'm so much older than all of you. When I was married, early, you know, way back then, I still had to soak and salt my meat myself, and the chickens, and the
Wow.
whole business. And that was the step up, because my mother had to defeather the chickens.
So you were
And
spoiled.
clean them, but there was always the bonus of fleshika eggs that were inside the chicken that we don't get today.
Oh my
You know,
God.
do you know what I'm talking
Not
about?
at all.
Oh, well, when you open a
Actually found
chicken
the eggs inside.
and there's little eggs in there, and those are fleshik if you find them inside the chicken.
After
Oh my
it's
gosh.
shifted. Right, they
You,
haven't
know,
been
you don't know
mashed.
that?
How did I know?
Wait, are they
Oh my
edible?
goodness.
You boil them and make egg salad, or like?
She used to make fricassee with little tiny chicken bones and little tiny sweet and sour eggs. I just assumed everybody knew things like that. I have all these
Monica
experiences.
knew, that's about it.
I have so many experiences that I doubt that anybody here.
So you're
has.
saying that you couldn't
My father
start
was
on
a
Friday?
sheikh, so I was at the slaughterhouse many times. I would walk with him on Shabbos because or in Yom Tov, I mean, not on Shabbos. If the meat was slaughtered during the week and had to be washed every day,
Friends.
and one of those days was Yom Tov, you had to walk. We walked miles. I would walk, but it was a chance to be with my father,
Right, oh,
to
that's-
walk and wash the meat.
And this is in
And
Cincinnati.
I got to, yes, or I got to watch him sharpen a challah.
Mhm.
And also there were, you know, we're really so lucky, we don't have to do all these things. Every time I open a package,
We need
every
these
time
reminders.
I open a package of meat and I realize I can just go cook it, I think something's wrong.
Right, right. Why is
Because,
this so easy?
because I always had to do that, you know, and it just was part of the week, you know, and from a different perspective, my father was a moil, so a lot of times there were 2 brisson on Friday morning, and my mother had to get my father's clothes ready, because he went first to the market to Shecht, and then he came home, we called him Dagwood,
He couldn't be covered in blood going to the bridge.
and took a shower and davened, and the clothes were laid out for him, exactly ready to be put back on and run to the hospital. In those days in Cincinnati, they had a bris milah room at the Jewish hospital. and then come home, and he would have to go see those babies in the afternoon before Shabbos, you know. So her schedule was around him. And for many of you, I'm sure it's the same because your husbands are very busy with learning or whatever it may be.
Right, it could be
But-
husbands, it could be carpools.
But it's a very different rhythm, so that now I feel like, well, of course, I'm only cooking for myself, and once in a while I have company. Hotel Epstein closed a while back already. It was always open, but of late, it's a different world for me. But,
They don't even have the livers and the chickens anymore.
no,
Because I mean.
no, we used to have,
Did anybody know what I'm talking
Yes,
about?
Yes.
they stopped sending it to
I
us.
bought
Yeah.
number
You had
one
to
and
take-
strafed up a
sure.
frying pan instead
Yeah.
of never doing that again.
Yeah.
Because I don't know
Because
what
the
I'm doing.
chickens used to come with the liver, and
That's
they would,
right.
on the back, package would say you have to broil it or whatever.
of course.
And it had to say that because some people have no idea what to do with it. You think
It
this
used
is
to come with
meat,
the
treat it
feet
like
also.
meat. Ugh.
And you had, no,
Wait, not
what are you
good.
talking about? You took the
Over the
feet
heart.
and you put them over a flame and peeled them
Is that where the expression comes? Hold your feet to the flame?
over a gas flame. And I mean, these are the things these people did that took so much time.
So when did you all start?
And they got,
When did you start?
They cooked much simpler. They cooked 4 things.
well, my mother cooked chicken almost every day, so.
Chicken, soup,
You know.
bread.
But it was also, I also grew up during war years, so there was all kind of other,
But there were no 6 dips
Things
on the
like
table. No 6
rationing.
dips, no 4 salads,
That's
no
right, and
no eat desserts.
It's interesting. 'cause
oh, my
I was-
mother baked constantly.
Okay.
She never bought a thing in a bakery, ever.
Yes, right.
But I was talking to my daughter, and she was saying she's very close with Rabbi Rebbetzin Willig in New York, and she said Rebbetzin Willig does not approve of, not approve, but she feels like magazines like Mishpacha give a very false, because the table is always set beautifully and there are all these recipes and everybody has to up their game constantly, and that's not a good standard,
Right.
you know.
So I think that they do a decent job of trying to balance. I've been writing for Mishpacha for about 20 years, and right when I took this on, I had already been writing for them for 12, 15 years. Chani Nyman, who's the editor of Family Table, called me and asked me if I could start doing a new column called A Taste of Shabbos. So what I did is I interviewed Rebbitzins about how they prepare Shabbos, or how their mothers or
I love that column, by the way. I'm just gonna say,
Oh, that's
it was
so nice.
amazing.
it's
I
really
think I even have a
old.
recipe
It's
somewhere of one of the recipes. I don't remember which one.
Right, so at the same time that when you go to the family table section, you see these picture perfect, again, Martha Stewart dishes, you hear how Rebbitzins, who we want to emulate, made Shabbos, and it wasn't with 18 courses, and it wasn't with elaborate desserts. It was simple food. I didn't finish the resources. Number 1, the website, giftofchatzos.org. I did mention the WhatsApp group. I offer 15-minute consultations for free. And then a month later, we do a follow-up. In those 15 minutes, I will save you 15% or less. I will solve all your problems. Honestly, it's a chance to just reflect, try to figure out, what's your real pain point, or what's your goal? Like, if you're going to change something, it's just, kind of like hashing it out with another person at the other end of the line. We have a commitment form where you decide, I want to take this on. I can't jump into the whole thing. There's one thing I'm committing to. So you fill out that form. You check back with yourself a month later. You can sign up to have an accountability partner, and then I already mentioned CCI, which will be here, Mitzvah Shem, the 3 weeks. Any other comments?
So the other thing is that
Yes.
winter and summer are very different. In the
Very
winter,
different, yes.
Chatzos is earlier and the day
And
is
candle lighting
shorter.
is earlier.
Right now, when you don't have to bench lift till 8:45, you pretty much get
You just have
done.
to keep
Right.
yourself awake.
Right, so
Unless you
I-
try to fill too many things in on the day.
which we all do.
But
Yeah, but I try to kind of close up shop when we change the clock, and be very quiet for a little while, just maintain the organization, not really promote it so much because people are just trying to survive. But what happens is when you take this on, it doesn't really matter when candle lighting is. You're going to be rushing in the 2 hours before, whether it's at 5 or whether it's at 9. True, false. It gives you a little more time. There's the illusion that we have more time, but we try to fill it.
Yeah, so you fit in other
really
stuff is
matter.
what
It
happens.
doesn't matter what time Shabbos is, you know? It matters because you picked up your kids and then there's only 2 hours until, or you came home from work and there's only an hour until, but that's just logistics. There's a way to make it work.
As we were talking, I just want to mention, I'm like just remembering one of my aunts and her sister, whenever I would go to her in seminary, you know that feeling like when you light Shabbos candles and like everything's calm? Like you would come into her house at 2 o'clock Friday afternoon, I'm like,
She was already calm.
yeah, like nothing was going on, the house was sparkling, the food was done, and like I remember like always, I literally forgot about it until now. I remember always being like, this is like, it's beautiful. Like you walk in, like you feel like, you literally feel like it was Shabbos.
Right.
5 hours before.
The high
And she has
school.
14 kids, and she's a good for yeshiva, and she has a lot going on. I'm like, somehow she pulled it together.
So the high school in Atlanta, Tamima High School, and I think Rachel Ora was
Yeah.
possibly in this play. She was definitely in Tamima. They did a play called THI. Thank you. You were
Thank
yeah.
God it's Shabbos.
TGIS.
It was
Thank God
after
it's
Shabbos,
Shabbos.
after Rosh Hashanah, but
Okay, after Rachel Ora as well. Okay.
yeah.
So they had a whole bunch of different scenes that have to do with Shabbos, and one of them was an old school chuppah setup. So like a village that's all kind of, you know, people holding the poles, and you have a kala and her family, and the rabbi and the townspeople. Beautiful setup. The scene opens, and nothing is happening. They're just standing there waiting. They're waiting and waiting and waiting, and like even in the audience, I remember like, okay, is the scene gonna start? And then people start looking at their timepieces and their watch, and the minutes are ticking by. And all of a sudden, after like maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes, the chassan runs in from stage left with his tie crooked and his shirt not tucked in and his hat flying off. And he's like, you know, I'm here, let's get married. What? But that's how we come into Shabbos. So when I watched that scene, I was like, I'm not a play person. But I went, what? That's literally how we run into Shabbos and to candlelighting and greet the Shabbos queen, like week after week after week. And there's a lot of force working against us, so we have to do a lot to make it go the other way. Yeah. And one other interesting thing that I'm going to mention is when in the Berkowitz house we like achieved that calm, peaceful Friday afternoon. My daughter came to me once at about 2, 3. The house was quiet, very clean, food was ready, everything's calm, and she was like, I kind of miss the old way. I was like, what are you saying? You can't.
Friday frenzy.
Yeah, she loved it. Like there would be music playing and she's making potato cocoa and she's reaching over me and I'm reaching over her and it's like really lively and fun and great. But I'm a little stressed out because I'm looking at the clock and I'm thinking how much I still need to clean and am I gonna have to stick this in the oven over Shabbos because I don't have time to wash it and then someone's gonna forget and turn it on and the food processor is gonna be melted. Like that's what's going through my mind. So it might seem like fun, but there's an undercurrent of stress. So you kind of have to figure things out. I had to try to make some kind of like new special, like what's going on Friday afternoon so we don't just take away the chaos and the fun and the frenzy, but what does happen? And that's a question that everyone has to answer, and people ask it on the chat a lot. And they find their own answer. I don't have the answer to that one. You know, spending quality time with family, making phone calls. You could say Tehillim. You know, I made fun of it, but put on a special Tehillim and say Tehillim. That's beautiful, you know?
When I was a kid, my mother used to, during this season, my mother used to take us to the New York Botanical Gardens every Friday afternoon.
Okay.
Shabbos was mostly done. We came home from school. We ate lunch. We went to Botanical Gardens with our friends. Came back and she just like stuck the chicken that was already ready into the oven, so it's fresh.
Right. It could be marinated Thursday and just sitting there ready to go.
Probably in the morning, but
Friday
yeah.
morning, yeah.
And we did that. So I think in the 25 years I've been living here, I did it like twice.
Okay. One more and it's a chazaka. Just one more. So my
You can
mother
take
told
my
me,
kids to the botanical garden while I'm still rushing Friday afternoon.
yeah. So I actually felt guilt because at a certain point the kids had all left home and I was already not sitting and they're like, okay, I'm gonna go help my neighbor because I need to be stressed out. I need to be doing stuff. And I was like, wait, is that okay? What do you mean is that okay? This is not halacha. Of course it's okay. You know, do what floats your boat. You know? So yeah, my mother's mother, the kids would come home from school, there were 6 kids, and she would take them to the YMCA to go swimming, because that was like the JCC in those days, and they would take their shower for Shabbos, so she saved on water, and they came home ready for Shabbos, pretty hungry from swimming, very tired from swimming, and you know, they would have a little snack, crash, and that's it, you know? That was their tradition. Botanical gardens, swimming, whatever it is. There's a few moms who, like I said, they said they have time now to sit and go over the parsha sheets and the projects from the week. One of them buys special projects for Friday afternoon. No glitter. whatever her rules are, clean-ish projects. But the feedback and the impact are unbelievable. I cry regularly from things that people post on the chat. One woman posted something like, you wouldn't even think it's any big deal, but she said, I was never able to set my table because my 3-year-old pulled off everything. I don't know how she did this, but she said her 3-year-old now sets the table.
You think I've always said to you?
He helps at the table, but he climbs on the table and just sits there, like, no.
Right, so that is a common problem that people have.
Yeah.
And it's gonna depend on the 3-year-old.
It's very cute.
Everybody
It's-
dishwasher
It's
free plastic.
It's not gonna work.
Dishwasher, yeah.
Thick plastic plates. are
Right.
nice.
But there was something about this shift that I don't know how she got this toddler to shift from being the destruction man to being the table setting man. But now he actually took pride in his table, and it probably looked interesting. Martha Stewart might cry, but he had buy-in. So whether it's teens or preschoolers, there was a bacher, we posted the cutest picture of a bacher with a sign on his back that said what time chatzos is, and he's holding a broom in his hand. I posted that on LinkedIn, and I am so sure he's gonna get a shidduch from it, even though it's just his back. But his mother would post a sign in the kitchen every day, every week about what time chatzos is. She wasn't pressuring her family, she was just saying, this is my goal. She had her list up if anyone wanted to do stuff. So this bacher came home from yeshiva, he got the brezel, whatever that expression is, grab a broom to help, and she stuck the sign on his back. And he agreed to the picture, and like, here's this bacher who's now growing up with this concept of chatzos Shabbos and helping, and maybe he'll bring it into his home. You know, he's gonna have to marry a chatzoser, or else it's gonna be a
Well,
problem.
I want to mention one other thing to you that you take so for granted. If somebody calls you on the cell phone on Friday and you're busy, you can put it on the table and talk and get something done. We're not, up until just a few years ago, even for me, it was different. But for my mother, there was one telephone in one spot, and you had to answer it and sit still and take care of it. And
The good
since
old days.
she was answering things for my father, she couldn't decide not to talk on the telephone, you know. These days, for me, my nephew calls every Friday in the morning from Israel, right before his wife benches lifts. And I know that that's my sit-down time for a few minutes, you know, every Friday morning. And it helps me relax, you know, even if I've got other things to do. I now obviously have a lot more time to do other things later in the day than you all do.
Since the hotel
But
closed.
it really is the difference if you think about how in the older days, the limits that we don't even think about anymore, but it's an enormous difference if you have to sit down and answer the phone and take messages and be there, and you can't be doing it at the same time that you're peeling the potatoes. So
Right, so to both appreciate what we have, but also sometimes to just sit down
We have
and give
to learn
someone
from
full
it.
attention.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for
And I've learned how to be lazy too.
It's a learned skill. Thank you, Leah, for hosting. Leah Posner. Thank you again to B'nai Torah, Adina Bernak,
And to
and to Shoshi.
And the sisterhood.
Yes, and please take something to eat. It's a beautiful spread. Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. This actually wasn't supposed to be an Indy Shabbos, but we switched our tickets around because I wanted this to happen. Yeah. And it's always nice to be back in Indy for Shabbos, for sure.